What's up, everyone? This is Sean Astrom. I'm the owner of SA Studios. This is me right here, if you haven't already figured that out. But the reason for this video is I am launching my first set of products, which are these CG HDRI files that I've created. And the reason for the CG is that they are computer generated, which might be hard to believe, but these came out of a 3D program. What is so cool about them is the dynamic range in these images is upwards of 20 stops. And what that allows you to do is illuminate your scenes with a huge dynamic range. And I'm going to demonstrate that here shortly. But I just wanted to point out what you get here. If we go back here, each set of skies consists of 3 different maps, each one having their own variations in the clouds. So essentially you get A, B, and C. But it's a really rad value because I'm selling it around the price of what other people are selling single maps for. You are getting 3. So pretty cool there. The other thing I'm doing is I'm bundling the full pack of all 12 of these, which is ultimately 36 HDRI spherical maps, also including alpha channels, and I will explain a little later here what you can do with those in order to kind of fake some cloud shadows. But I'm selling the whole pack here for $175. You are going to get 36 HDRI sky maps, and I haven't even mentioned that these are all rendered out at 16K resolution, so they are incredibly high resolution. This was kind of a fun one that I threw in the mix, Halloween. But anyway, diving into Cinema 4D here, I'm going to show you guys how you can use these in your own projects. First thing I'm going to do here is throw in a cube because, you know, it's a 3D program. That's just what you do. But really, I'm going to throw in a new material, and I'm going to disable color and reflectance and just enable the luminance channel. And let's load in one of these files here. Let's see here. This is the whole set, but I think for this demo, I'm going to do, gosh, there are so many to choose from. I think I'm just going to go with the Blue Sky Clouds A. Load that up. We don't need to copy it into our project directory. Now, first thing first, we need to add in a sky. So you can do that right there. And we will throw the material on here. And right off the bat, in Cinema 4D at least, you should see somewhat of a preview here. And it's a pretty terrible preview. And the reason for that is if we go into our editor tab inside our material here, you can see under the texture preview size it's set to default, which I think you can change in your preferences, but in this case it usually defaults, I want to say, to 256 by 256, maybe 512, but anyway, it's super low quality, so let's bump that up to 2K, which is awesome. Gives us a lot more detail here so you can see what's going on. I'm going to do a quick test render so you can just kind of see here. I was messing around with a couple other of these earlier, so you can kind of see what we get here. So here's the sky rendered out here at 720p. But right off the bat, you might notice that the exposure is a little high, and this is what is so powerful about these images. So if I go into my luminance channel here, I'm just going to pull down the brightness. This is for the color right here. If we go down to the texture set here, we have the mix strength, and you can see that by adjusting this parameter that you can effectively control the exposure of these skies. So one other thing, I'm going to drop in a camera. I'm going to set it to something crazy like 14 mil. Get a super wide angle so we can really see what's going on here. Now you'll notice a little bit of an indicator where the sun is, and if I render, you will see that it's clean. But there's one trick to that, because if we are in the standard render, we probably want to be in physical. You get a little cleaner render with the physical. And I had this issue with the C version of this particular sky. But if I go back here, now one thing to keep in mind is since these are 16K, they are going to be slow to load. But once they're loaded in, you should be good. But I just want to point this out. If I'm in the standard renderer and I hit render, wow, I'm also getting a clean image. Weird. I think I might have discovered a bug in Cinema. But anyway, this little black ring that's showcasing where the sun is located was coming in through the renderer, and I thought it had to do with being in the standard render, but regardless, we're going to stick with the physical render because the anti-aliasing is much higher quality, and yeah, it's a little bit better than the standard render. A little bit slower, but ultimately better. Next thing I'm going to do is drop in a landscape, and I'm going to hide this cube for a minute. Let's just make this thing huge. I'm going to go 15,000 by 15,000. And let's make it, I don't know, 250 tall. Next thing I'm going to do is bump up the segments to 1,000 by 1,000. That's kind of the highest you can actually go with this particular primitive. Let's do 400. There we go. We're getting something kind of nice here. I'm going to bump up the rough furrows and the fine. Why not? Okay, now we're getting something that looks pretty cool. But this is really just to show how these will illuminate your scene. Now, if I render right off the bat here, it's looking pretty terrible. And the reason for that is we need to enable global illumination. So if I go to my effects here and we enable global illumination, we are good to go. I'm going to do another quick render so you can see that it's still not going to be properly set up. It's looking much better here because now the ground is being illuminated by this map. But we want to go ahead and dial in this preset that Maxon have created for us, exterior HDRI image, and this will better utilize the imagery that we've brought in. I'll do one other test here. And we're getting much more accurate shadows and lighting than in this image. Now, I'm going to enable the cube so that we can see this much better. So, if I render again, we should get some really, really nice hard shadows, which we are seeing here. And that's what I wanted to point out with these is a lot of HDRIs that you bring in, you don't get those nice hard shadows because they are, well, truthfully not properly created. So, rendering again here, that is one of the beautiful benefits of these sky maps is these nice hard shadows that you get. So, I'm going to throw in another one here just so you can see all the different effects that you can achieve. Let's go cloudy evening A, why not? Don't need to copy it. Do this directory, and it should load up here in a second. Now, remember, 16K, so this is crazy high resolution. Now, in this case, the sun is basically setting, and if we want to bump up the exposure to, say, 100, should look a little more accurate. And I will show you a little trick with the global illumination to illuminate everything in our scene better. If we go in here and go under primary method, and let's just double this to 200, do another render. Essentially now the ground and cube and everything is going to be affected twice as much. So pretty cool stuff. I'm going to create a quick ocean so that we can see how nice this will look with some crazy reflections. Let's go 15,000 again, 15,000, and essentially we have some nice water here. Looking good. We've made ourselves a nice little island. Beautiful. Let's just kind of go like something like this. Create a new water material here. Let's see, water's reflective, it's transparent, it has a refraction of about 1.33. And maybe let's throw on some bump. Let's go noise. Let's go blistered no, I'll go displaced turbulence. Let's crank up the octaves to 10. Scale 2500. Sure, why not? Maybe a little smaller. 1500. Maybe a little smaller. 400. You always got to kind of play around with this stuff to get it to scale properly in your scene. I'm going to crank that up. If you ever see your bump mapping looking totally bizarre and not correct, play around with the delta setting here. And that's looking a little nicer. You can also right click here. I'm probably out of the capture area here, but you can always right click and create a larger preview of your material simply by right clicking and going, well, you guys aren't seeing this, but there's an open window link, and you can more or less really blow up your material previews so that you can see the quality of your material that you've created. Anyway, throwing this on here, I can tell right off the bat that that noise is definitely too big. I'm going to just stick with 100. Oops. And just see what we get here. It might still be too small now, but anywho, let's render and see what we get. It's all part of the fun of this stuff. Trial and error, trial and error. By the way, if anyone's wondering, I am just winging this video, so it was not pre-planned out. So anyway, you can kind of really see the sweet, awesome reflections that we're getting there. Unfortunately, the landscape is looking real boring and ugly. So maybe we can spice that up a little bit. Let's create a new material. And I think our ground is going to be very flat. Let's go here and throw in a cool noise. Gotta love C4D's built-in noise. It is some of the best in the industry, I would say. So let's just see what we get here. Might be a little crazy. Let's go in and change these colors. Do like a nice sandy brown something. Good enough. And probably should copy this channel and also throw it into the bump here. Now you could do some pretty cool displacement, but for the sake of fast render times, let's get this back to white and black. By the way, this is a rad little plugin that I'm using for changing my colors around. If you're wondering why yours does not look like that, let's do another quick render. Another thing you'll notice is these skies render out incredibly quick, and that is another benefit of using a system like this. I'm just going to stop this because that is not very pretty. And I think the first thing I will change is the scale. And I will probably just get in here a little closer, get kind of a better angle. And this bump is definitely too high as well. Let's see what we get here. But this is full GI with shadows and everything all being calculated on the fly here. And it's looking pretty sweet. My landscape material is still very ugly, so I'm going to play with that, but we'll let this finish so that we can really kind of see what we're getting. Now what's cool is I've also included the sun angle position in the files so that you can position a light here and create your own sun flares, whether that be in After Effects or right here in Cinema 4D. But let's blow this up just even to a much larger size. 8K, it'd probably help if the octaves were cranked up. I think that might have been my main problem here. Let's copy this channel again. Well, actually, let's leave that where it was because I was changing the wrong one there, but that's okay. I'll just do 3K here, and I think we should be matched up there. Let's see what this looks like. So, but anyway, you can see how much better these look than the default skies that come with most 3D packages. Are pretty not good. I've always had a difficult time getting nice, realistic looking clouds inside of other packages. And with these files, you can certainly do it. They're extremely hyper real. pretty cool. I think this one's looking pretty good. It can go in here to our filter here and play a little bit around with the exposure. And again, since we got 32-bit imagery happening here, it's looking pretty good. And actually, we might not be 32-bit there. Let me double check here. Yeah, that is actually an 8-bit image. The reason for that is under the save settings, you have to switch the depth to 32-bit. Now, let's go over here and change the angle for the sake of keeping this interesting. If we re-render, we're going to get a much higher quality image where we can have way better control of the dynamic range. My computer is pretty quick here, so you know, if you see different results on your machine, maybe look into upgrading it. That's all I can say. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Let's play around with the exposure here. So now you can see better how the dynamic range is very high. So you can really, especially in your compositing app of choice, you can really dial in these images to make them look cool. Real quick, I'm going to save this out to my desktop. We'll pull it into Photoshop and see if we can't just spice it up a little bit. Play with the levels here. That's a little crazy. But if we let's be real creative here and do the auto color and auto tone, and wow, pretty amazing, if I do say so myself. If we go here to our Smart Sharpen and rock this baby a little bit, it's one of my favorite filters. I might overuse it sometimes, but you can really see the kind of details that we get in these clouds and sky. Again, 16K, they are pretty. Let's do one more. Keep the camera in the same position here and see how this looks. Let's go November overcast. I tried to name these a little more creatively than HDRI 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., just so that it might be a little easier to recall where these things are and how they are named. So let's bring in November A. See what we get here. On another video soon, I'm going to demonstrate how to do this inside of V-Ray for C4D. Few more steps, but ultimately gives you a little bit more control over the lighting using the extremely powerful area light system inside of V-Ray for C4D. But right off the bat here, we're rendering away, and you can see how quick these go. If you were to try to build your own volumetric clouds that look this realistic inside of Cinema or another program, be taking much longer than, well, let's take a look here. 21 seconds to render at HD. Now remember, this is full global illumination and all of the good stuff. So I'll just save this down real quick. Let's open it in Photoshop. Now again, I'm going to get real creative here. Auto tone, auto color, levels. Maybe we can even get crazy and use, oh well, I'm actually, since I'm in 32-bit, can do the HDRI toning, which is pretty sweet. And you can see how detailed these clouds are. They're pretty crazy. Some of them took upwards of 40 hours to render, so they took me a long time to work on. And I was going to see some of the presets here if there's anything that looks cool. Let's go more saturated. That looks pretty terrible. Some of these are not that great. Maybe the folks at Adobe could rework them a little bit. Maybe they're designed to work more on actual photographs and not 3D renderings. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go with exposure gamma and just tweak this a little here. That's looking nice. I probably will go in here to 16-bit so that we can utilize some more tools such as the curves, or accidentally hit exposure. Auto. Got to do everything with the auto button. There's really no sense in, just kidding. But anyway, for the sake of this video, I'm just trying to make it quick. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. We got some pretty awesome looking images here. If I do a quick smart sharpen on this one, I don't know, pretty impressive. For 25 bucks a set, you can essentially use these to illuminate your entire scene. Maybe you're going for a little more of a CG look. You want to be able to tell your client that the entire project is 100% CG, you know, or you want something a little more stylized. These skies can do that for you. Anyway, I hope this wasn't too long at 21 minutes. Might be a little lengthy, but anyway, please have a look at these on my site, and thank you for watching.